are the One Club. We are the world's foremost not-for-profit, supporting and celebrating the global creative community. And that is all of you. We run programs and events all over the world, all year round, to uplift, to upskill, to inspire and support creatives working across many industries, including advertising and design. This week, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers, and today is no different. We are very excited to spotlight the incredible work of the people you see on screen now. Before I get into today's episode, I want to give a big shout out to the Young Ones winners on Monday evening down at Sony Hall. It was a fantastic celebration. And tonight, we celebrate the ADC Awards, one of the biggest nights in art and design. And of course, on Friday, many of you will be familiar, we celebrate the One Show. Some noise for the One Show, everyone. Fantastic. Today for episode 3 of Morning Buzz, we are talking ahead of the pack, the future of collaboration with creatives, brands, and agencies. First, we'll hear from Roxane Schneider and Peter Claes, creative directors at FCB New York. Then we'll welcome senior art director at West BBDO and One School LA tutor, Barbara Polanco. And last but not least, we welcome the team from Colle McVoy. We have Alli Bolger, Anna Maria Matta, Katie Walley-Wiegert, and of course, our Portfolio Night All-Star, Marc Smith Jr. Round of applause for all our speakers. So, without further ado, it is my great pleasure to welcome our first guests from FCB New York, Roxane Schneider and Peter Claes.
Good morning, everyone. Or as we say, goeiemorgen in Flemish. I'm Roxane Schneider. I'm a creative director at FCB New York.
And I'm Peter Claes. I'm a creative director at FCB New York.
So we work at FCB New York. We are, it's an amazing agency. We love to work there. Obviously, we're a little bit biased. But FCB New York is kind of known for making the impossible possible. And a few of their works did exactly that. Like, for example, Dreamcaster, where we made a visually impaired man made his dream come true by being a commentator for an NBA basketball game, or Lab of Legends, what we did last year, where we made a virtual versus real race where we had Logan Sargent, an F1 driver, race the iconic F1 racers from years and years before. But today we're gonna talk about Spreadbeats, campaign we did for Spotify, where we made the first music video entirely coded and experienced in Excel. And we're gonna take you through a little bit of the roadblocks we had, how we did it, why we did it for Spotify. And mostly like in a world of where everyone strives for like the newest technologies, the newest AI, we actually went the other way and we went lo-fi, and we're gonna explain that a little bit here.
Yeah, so just some background on why we did this. We all know Spotify is one of the biggest audio platforms in the world, but when it comes to advertising space, they're actually pretty small compared to Meta and Google. And one of the reasons is that they're considered an audio platform. Advertisers only book advertising space for audio ads. But what a lot of brands didn't know is that Spotify now also has video ads. So our briefing was that we had to make clear to media planners to say like, hey, Spotify has video content too, which a lot of people didn't know. So our target audience were media planners. So before we started on this brief, we really dove into how these people work, and we found out that these people get a lot of mails. And they got a lot of mails with spreadsheets. So this is like a usual media plan spreadsheet that these people get. So we thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we can bring the message that Spotify has video ads in these actual spreadsheets they get from Spotify. So we thought, okay, let's make a music video in the actual spreadsheets Spotify sends them, which sounded very easy on paper, but throughout the year we learned that it was very challenging. So we're gonna talk you through it. So we called it spread beats. So the first music video coded and experienced in Excel. So media planners got an email, they opened an Excel file, and the music video started playing. That was basically the experience.
And our first problem was we had to code a 4-minute music video in a single file of 10 megabytes, which is kind of insane. Why did it have to be 10 megabytes? Because if you add an attachment in email, it can only be 10 megabytes. And we wanted to make the experience that these media planners would get by receiving this music video the same as they would experience if they just get a normal Excel spreadsheet. So that was our first big roadblock. So we had to find a production partner as crazy enough to believe it was possible. So we found these 4 rascals from Greece and the UK. Amazing people. We talked to a lot of production companies when we pitched the idea. And every single one of them was a little bit shocked and was like, this is never going to happen. They were saying like, okay, let's make a website where people can experience it, or let's make a video that looks like Excel. And these were the only ones that I still remember a quote from our first meeting where they said, we have no idea how to do it, but we'll find a way. And that's what they did.
Yeah, so this whole project was about constraint because we didn't have the luxury of using a lot of pixels because Excel uses very limited amount of pixels. We also had to code it into 10 megabytes. So we had to go back, instead of using new technologies, we had to go back in time and use a whole bunch of old technologies that hadn't been used in many years. So I think we have a little video here. Yeah.
Ironically, to do something this advanced, we had to take a trip back to the origins of data and algorithms.
We used old compression methods and visualization techniques that hadn't been used for over 30 years, all in the spirit of economy. Like keyframe-based animation, curve-based animation, wireframe rendering, dithering, color compression, indexed color, MPEG-1, and fractal image compression. In a way, this was digital archaeology.
Like this actually made it cooler because a lot of cases, a lot of IDs rely on artificial intelligence and the newest technologies, and this immediately stood out, and it actually helped us. Like all the constraints actually helped us in the long run. Then we made another crazy decision to not use AI. Actually, this would have been easier with artificial intelligence to code every little cell in every little frame to automate it using artificial intelligence. But somehow we decided not to do it, and it probably would have saved us a lot of sleepless nights if we would have done it, but we didn't. Which actually made the piece much more human because you felt like the little mistakes, the human element into it. So in the long run, this was a very good decision. Another thing we decided, like, what if we make it, like we could have made a video and embed it into Excel, but we decided to make it using Excel functionalities. So we actually used the very same functions media planners use to code it into Excel. So one of them, for example, is Unicode. It's a series of characters that we used to create visuals. And then there's, I think we have videos here. Yeah.
Unicode is a set of alphabets used by Excel. It covers a huge range of languages, from widely spoken ones like Spanish and Hindi to obscure ones like Tifinagh, Linear B, and Old Hungarian. The characters from these alphabets became data we used to craft visuals within Excel.
One of the techniques that we used to create visual worlds, which was very fun to do. I think we have a few other ones.
Yeah, we like even discovered that Excel has so many different languages that probably no one ever uses, but I think we might have been the first one to use it within Excel.
I think so.
And then we have conditional formatting. This is actually something that media planners and everyone that uses Excel uses a lot in their daily basis, in their daily workflow. We have a little video that explains it a lot better than I can.
Conditional formatting in Excel automates the styling of cells based on predefined criteria. It's normally used to execute repetitive tasks in Excel. We used conditional formatting to create a visual universe entirely governed by numerical inputs within cells.
What's exciting about this project is that we use the full capacity of Excel. Everything is made with native Excel functionalities.
Yeah, so this was a crazy process of 1 year long, in which we had, I think, daily meetings with the team to just discover new ways of doing visuals in Excel. So it was pretty hard, but there were also a lot of magical moments when we had a breakthrough. It was really fun doing.
And then we have 3D. Of course, Excel is seen as like a 2D grid. And within the whole music video, we try to build up let's say, the quality of the video. So we went from ASCII Unicode to 3D, which we find a way to kind of trick the eye and made a 2D grid into 3D.
We turned a 2D grid into a 3D canvas. A 3D artist created imagery that was translated into Excel by using characters to create the illusion of depth.
And also here, I think within this project, we were able to work with amazing people. Like one of the guys that did the whole character in 3D was an amazing artist who has been using a lot of Unicode, has been doing a lot of artworks, and we were very honored that he was happy to work on this. And then we have Quadtree. So Quadtree was a very big turning point because it was a very big roadblock. As I said, we tried to start lo-fi and then went a little bit more high-tech, let's say, like in terms of imagery, but since we had to stay within that 10 megabytes, we had to find a way to use realistic images, but use it in a way that doesn't take up so much space. So we found a technique that is actually a technique from the 70s, where they merge cells based on colors, where you still understand what you're looking at, but everything is differently merged together. Again, this will be explained a lot better.
For performance reasons, we use Quadtree, a technique from the 70s used to create imagery in low-resolution environments. We can save file space by consolidating visually similar regions. For areas requiring greater detail, we employ more cells, effectively increasing the resolution. It allows us to focus on specific regions we want to highlight.
Yeah, it's actually a technique from cinema in the 70s when screens were much worse than today, where they centered visually similar regions in 1 megapixel, and then regions that require more detail use more pixels, which was a very cool visual effect. And then, yeah, one of the biggest challenges, one of the many big challenges, was syncing visuals to music. So we actually coded an algorithm in one of the tabs. It was an invisible tab running in the background. This is the tab where we built an algorithm that synced the music to the animation. So it was actually cut up in all different frames. So every little color block you're seeing is a frame. So every time the music was out of sync, it reconnected to the visuals like in a matter of milliseconds. So yeah, I think we can talk for a few hours about this project. There's like a lot of little cool, nerdy things we did. We actually talked to Microsoft afterwards, and Microsoft said that we had discovered a few things that they didn't even know about Excel, which was really fun. Yeah.
There was also a lot of love in the Excel community. Apparently, there's a very big community of like Excel fans, and they all really loved it, which made us very proud.
Yeah. Yeah.
We built an algorithm inspired by control theory to sync the track to the visuals, so they are always within a range of 5 to 15 milliseconds, imperceptible to the eyes and ears.
Yeah, and then a minor detail, we needed an artist. So we, of course, Spotify has a lot of art, has a lot of connections with artists. So they delivered us John Summit. He's an EDM DJ, which actually made a lot of sense because EDM DJs are known to be technological geeks. Also, for the rhythm of the edit, it was really nice to have a beat. So we were very happy with him. He's a Coachella headlining artist. What made it really fun was that he used to be an accountant who worked in Excel every day. He hated it, so he thought it was really fun to make a music video in Excel, which was a really fun nod to his past. Yeah, and then like we didn't want this just to be eye candy. We wanted to create a fun story within the music video. We didn't want to be just random visuals. So we created a character. She's called E7. She's born in cell E7. And she wakes up in a boring environment, which is a spreadsheet, and she wants more from life. So she wakes up and she goes on a transformative journey through music. And she starts as a normal cell, and then she starts to transform in different characters that we built with different illustrators, and she becomes a real person at the end, which we thought was really fun. We created the facial expressions with just digits, which was really fun to do. I think like every little frame was another facial expression, which was really fun. So yeah, I think the big learning from this project was that we've done projects that were very technologically driven, where we had the luxury to work with AI, VR, AR. This project didn't offer us that, but working within all these limitations really made the project what it is. Like we encountered many problems, but we turned every problem into a possibility, and I think that's what made this project stand out. So yeah, is this the last slide? Nice. Are there any questions?
For Roxane and Peter, how did you measure the success of this campaign?
Yeah, that was actually very easy because it's a direct one-to-one ID. So we gave all Spotify salespeople a tool that they could generate a music video in the spreadsheets that they usually send. So it was a one-to-one direct campaign. So we immediately knew who opened it, how long did they watch, did they forward it. So it was, yeah, all the results were very measurable. Other than that, this got a lot of trade press throughout the year. And usually trade press for a campaign is a little bit a vanity metric because it doesn't really say much about the effectiveness of a consumer campaign, but this is a B2B campaign. So for Spotify, advertising being in the trade press is actually pretty important. So I guess the results were on these two levels, like the direct one-to-one results and the PR results, yeah.
And it was also nice to see because the video was like 4 minutes 16, and more than half of the people fully watched it, which is like almost 4 minutes out of their day that they took to watch this Excel spreadsheets, which was very nice to see. And
some people thought that their computer was hacked, probably. Yeah.
Wonderful. Another round of applause for Roxane and Peter from FCB New York. Thank you both. Wonderful. That was fantastic. And a big thank you to the team at FCB New York for helping us get this on the program today. It was awesome. We have a very special guest to fill in segment 2 for episode 3 of Morning Buzz. I'm very excited to welcome our next guest. They have a deep connection to the One Club. They are one of our lead tutors for One School LA, the One Club's free portfolio school for the next generation of Black creatives. Can I get some noise for One School? So it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage Barbara Polanco, Senior Art Director at West BBDO.
Good morning, everyone. How are we feeling today on this nice rainy day? So today I'm going to talk about a project that I worked on while I was at Ogilvy for 3.5 years. I'm incredibly proud of it. So yeah, before I get into it, let's just go over the little about me section. So I made sure it's not linear because nothing about my life or path has been linear. But yeah, just to start at the top, we have the OG invitation for the first hip hop party. ever in the Bronx, New York. I am from the Bronx, if you couldn't tell. And actually, I'm from the street that's just behind exactly this 1520 Cedric Avenue building. So just have to have it up there. And then I have this little fun GIF here because I'm not sure how familiar y'all are with the Rough Riders anthem video, but I remember being a kid and actually watching them film this and just thinking that it was crazy. It will tie into something later on down in the presentation, so just keep that one in mind. But yeah, just getting into my path really into advertising. I mentioned it was nonlinear. So graduated high school, decided to go to Australia. I was gonna be a diplomat, and then I realized that's not what I wanted to do at all. So I came back home, and I've always had a relationship with art in some way or form. So fast forwarding, I did some modeling, and that's really how I got into the space of learning production, right? Being the talent, it's really tough to kind of figure out like how you do things. So I was just asking PAs, asking producers, what's a call sheet? Why are you, putting it this way? Just that kind of thing, and just really learned it on my own in that way. And so yeah, this is just one of my faves and one of the campaigns that I was actually really proud of to work on with Puma. But that kind of led me to be a little bit more fearless and kind of get into production on my own. So it started as just bespoke content for friends and smaller brands. And then eventually it became music videos for artists, local artists in New York specifically. But down here we have 2 screenshots from 2 of my favorite pieces of work. And so, yeah, after the directing kind of started off, COVID hit, right? So it was kind of like, okay, what do you do, right? How do you make money? How do you make a career out of this? And so fast forward to Oriel's tweet or LinkedIn post that we all know about. In 2020, I saw the One School application, applied, and actually graduated in 2021. I'm incredibly proud of that. Thank you. It really changed my life and introduced me to an incredible network, but a wealth of people that would champion me and really push me to be the kind of creative that I am today. And so I did a short, impactful stint in healthcare. We're gonna leave that one off for today. But after doing an internship at Ogilvy, I kind of came back as an art director out of the LA office. It's no longer with us, but shout out to Ogilvy LA. And so yeah, Ogilvy, and now I am at West BBDO, and that's really new. That was as of last week, so we just have it here. But today I want to focus on Ogilvy, right? I said I was there for 3.5 years. It was an incredible, incredible time. I had just access to a ton of opportunities, and I would say it had a lot to do with how I approached it, the kinds of conversations that I would have with people, but even just the connections that I really made, right? So we just want to focus on Ogilvy today, and we know how big of a legacy agency and brand it really is, right? So I just wanted to highlight this piece here, right? They're really big on borderless creativity. So we just have this quote here. When we say borderless, we mean creative excellence achieved through seamless collaboration, maybe for local or global projects. So this is like major for Ogilvy. You hear it internally, you see it in the work. There's a lot of cross collaboration. I myself, living in LA, had a chance to work on projects with the London office, the DC office, that kind of thing. So I just saw how big it was. And then it wouldn't be an Ogilvy presentation without a David Ogilvy quote, because why not? But this one I just wanted to highlight. Talent, I believe, is most likely to be found among nonconformists, rebels, and dissenters. And I think it's just really important, and tying it back to that Rough Riders clip that I mentioned. I just grew up in the Bronx in an environment where I saw fearlessness manifested in so many different ways. And I didn't realize how much of that I really brought into just my adult life, my creative life, those kinds of things. And so wanted to highlight this here because Ogilvy's big on hiring giants. Ogilvy's big on, the folks that join the teams and why and that kind of thing. And so it perfectly leads into, one, just how I approach my career, but 2, this project that I really want to get into that I worked on at Ogilvy. And so before getting into the name of it, I was spearheading this on my own, and it was really born out of sitting in the LA office and truly being the one and only Black creative out of 3 or 4 offices generally. I felt quite isolated, and this borderless creativity chat was constantly put in my face, and I also got a chance, like I said, to work with different offices. So I just kind of went up to the D&I folks, my CCO at the time, and just said, how can we change this, right? Like, how can we make sure when we're hiring people that look like me, black and brown, but also how can we extend it beyond just the work, right? If we're collaborating in this way, why can't we highlight the folks, right, that are making up this organization, that are spanning borders, right? Whether it's, folks that are sitting in LA and they're from different countries, or truly and really people from different continents, right? So creativity is innately collaborative, and collaboration comes with discussion and exchange of ideas. This is an organization that's spanning so many physical borders, so we wanted to create an opportunity to exchange gems across connected culture that impact on all levels. So I'm not gonna keep reading the rest of the quote because I think that's boring to read from your presentations, but the whole point of this was really, how can we highlight the giants, right? Outside of the folks that we hear from constantly from Ogilvy, how can we highlight that and just make it really interesting, right? So it was nice to come up with that strategy piece, or that justification, if you will, for this content strategy. I just wanted to make sure that it was something that resonated with folks and lived beyond me, being at Ogilvy. So this is the modern exchange. And so this is literally, I would say, what the pitch deck was. I had to present this to so many people sitting in APEC, in London, that kind of thing. And it was quite intimidating. I just feel like, usually there's a creative director that kind of works on it, but it was so nice to have the backing from my CCO that really truly allowed me to creatively lead this entire project. I was no stranger to leading video-led projects. As I said, I was a director before, but just doing it for a company like Ogilvy just felt really major. So the who that we wanted to highlight in the speaker series, we just wanted to have these cross-continental chats between folks at all levels. So more junior people, more senior people, just making sure that you have like the mix match, if you will, of folks. And that way it was an opportunity for the more junior creatives to have a stage and kind of speak on their career and their journey, but also some other senior folks that we really don't get a chance to hear from. And then the what here, this was mostly, and the way I kind of sold it in is like, it'll be a global attraction strategy. This was something that I joined Ogilvy in January of 2022, and by July of 2022, I kind of came up with this concept. And so it was evolving. This is still when we were pretty hybrid. So it just felt interesting, like how can we make sure that we span these borders physically, through conversations, and really just learn about people. And again, just highlight that borderless creativity through the people and not just the work that we're seeing coming out of Ogilvy. And yeah, really focusing on the culture ad. I wanted to emphasize that so much because again, just me sitting on my own, I would say, out of the LA office, it felt quite isolating, and I thought it was a good opportunity to just blend folks, right? Learn from other people, and then create a new culture, if you will, like within your team or at your local office, whatever that meant. It just felt like something interesting to do. And then the where, making sure that it was living on all of Ogilvy's social platforms, and just being intentional at the heart of it. However many times we were dropping, however many episodes we were doing, obviously like money is involved. So, we had those limitations, but just making sure that it felt like if it was a limited series, they were really rich conversations. And if we were gonna able to do more conversations, they could be short, but again, impactful and culturally rich conversations. So yeah, some creative details before I share some of it. This was like the mood board that I kind of came to everyone with. And so I wanted to make sure that it had that modern, bold, like touch that I kind of wanted to add to it, but still keeping that Ogilvy identity, right? It is a legacy brand, we know. We have amazing designers that worked on this like new system. So I didn't want to take away from that, but I did want it to still feel fresh and to feel like something that can age really nicely. But again, just have my little Bronx touch on it, if you will. And then, yeah, the vibe. This one was a slide that scared a few folks, but excited a lot of people. And so I was really happy about that. And so again, just taking it back for context to 2022, right? We had the chicken shop it was blowing up at the time, but those kinds of conversations felt interesting to me. But also going into the space of like cozy, and I would say cozy in the Beyonce kind of way, right? Like there's that confidence, but you're kind of chill, you know, it's feeling quite honest. It's feeling like a human interaction, right? Within this corporate space. And then I love this, you say blank, we say blank. Just knowing that we were spanning borders, we would potentially span languages, right? So what are some interesting ways that there's slang or whatever it is that we can kind of learn from each other that we can pick up on it, right? Or reference it in some way or another. And then the camera setup, this was probably the toughest part, but I wanted it to have this 2D effect, right? We were still hybrid. And so I wanted to capture the folks on the Zoom call, but to have that camera in front of them so it's feeling like it is, you know, you're having the eye contact, you're having the conversation. I'm sure y'all have seen this A$AP and Rihanna, Vogue, GQ cross interview, but very heavily inspired by this. And then IRL, right? There was an opportunity at the time to have these live chats at Cannes. And so I had to think of that, right? How do we want to set that up? Who did we want to have, you know, interacting in these conversations? That ended up not happening because it's just an insane time to try to get anybody's time. However, I kept it alive because even though it got killed, I figured that could be another opportunity to have other people within the office who are there the day that we're filming, that we can also get to know them as well. And so I'm not gonna read through this at all, but this was the first episode. So Dora Sinde, she is known as a unicorn and she is truly that. If y'all don't know who she is, please look her up. Find her on LinkedIn. She's incredible, but just an incredible, well, I just said she's incredible, but that's how much I rock with her, I would say. She's the CCO out of the Ogilvy, Germany office, and I remember that she got hired maybe 8 months after I joined Ogilvy. But my biggest, at the time, like the biggest connect that I had with her was that she is the only, or at the time was, the only Black CCO sitting in all of Europe, which I thought was insane. So I thought if I could get a chance to talk to her, that would be amazing. She's known as a unicorn. She has this nonlinear background as well. I figured we could have a good conversation. And funny enough, I told y'all it didn't happen at Cannes. I literally was trying to get it all set up. And as I was walking down the street, I saw her and fangirled. It was so bad. I ran up to her. I was like, oh my God, are you Dora Sinde? Like, I have this idea. And she was kind of like, relax, girl, hold on. But I ended up telling her about the project and we were connected. Like she stayed in contact with me and gave me the time. And so we were able to do the first episode together, which was really special. I was sitting in LA and she was literally in Berlin. So I had to get to the office at 5 a.m., which was wild, but it was just a good old time. And these chats were meant to be, you know, 10 to 15 minutes long. She and I spoke for an hour and a half. We had an amazing conversation, but I already knew ahead of shooting it that we had really good chemistry as humans, so I figured it would make for a really good conversation. So this is Dora, and then we have Anibal, who is the North America Chief Strat Officer out of Ogilvy. We had him actually talk to Mabinti Taylor, who's a junior copywriter out of the UK office. Actually, I met her because Ogilvy sent us both to Cannes together. And then Anibal is Dominican. I am Dominican as well, so I had to have the connection. I also met him in person, got to know him a little bit. And again, I'm just saying this for the context of making sure that that chemistry was there between the people, because again, that's what was gonna make folks actually watch it, right? How authentic it felt. And so, yeah, so these are some of the questions. It was really, truly, I'm not a copywriter at all, y'all. I literally write like I speak, which is a little cringe for some people, but I just really did the research on who I wanted to have, you know, on these episodes and then what I wanted them to talk about, what felt good for them and what felt like an interesting exchange, something that you really feel like you're learning about them, but you're also learning about the people that make up Ogilvy, right? So this is just the teaser that I'm gonna play for y'all today because Dora's conversation and I is like a 25-minute long conversation, and it's really, if you have the time, check it out. The episodes do live on the Ogilvy website, but after walking you through, you know, the vision and just kind of what I was pitching internally, we were able to make it happen, and so this is the final product.
And after this, oh, can I just go? Creativity is collaborative.
It comes with discussions and exchange of cultures.
So we thought, why not exchange gems across our connected culture?
At all levels.
Love your hoodies. Thank you. Actually, I bought it in LA.
How are you moving, T?
Good, I'm good. I'm excited to be here.
I'm very excited too.
And I'm a Canadian, and I'm a British citizen, and I'm an Indian citizen.
Are you allowed to have multiple passports?
Well, let's just stay on topic here, Tope.
I want to know what's like your favorite slang.
Palante.
I love food.
West African fried rice with grilled chicken and plantain.
I love that we both love plantains.
I think that definitely ties back to my Caribbean roots.
Joy.
Oh, I like that.
We are the talent.
We are the culture.
We are the modern exchange.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm obviously incredibly proud of it. Like I said, I'm not at Ogilvy anymore, but this is one of those pieces that people still hit me up today about it and ask about it. And I know that there's programs within Ogilvy. I know out of the Brazil office, they have a program where they have other creatives kind of practice English, and they actually watch the episodes and talk about them, which I thought was really interesting. So it went beyond just sharing the content, right? It's actually creating culture, right? As you're watching it, but also programs within Ogilvy. So yeah. Thank you for your
Round
time.
of applause for Barbara Polanco, everyone. Amazing. We've got some time for questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question for Barbara about today's presentation? I see some thinking faces going on. Here we go, in the front.
Thank you for sharing your story and your work. Will there be a season 2 of this at any point?
It's gonna live beyond me at Ogilvy, but it won't have my creative input anymore. But
that's unfortunate. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the room? Here we go.
Okay, so besides the fact that, yes, it might live on without you, is there someone that you wish you could have had as a guest for the first season that you're like, ooh, man, I'm coming back for you?
There's a few people. I would say there were a lot of creatives in the APAC offices that I didn't get a chance to connect with. It was just really hard to coordinate. And budget was limited, right? But I've left the list up. And just, obviously this is specific to Ogilvy, but I think in general, my push for like culture ad in general, I'll see what I can do at BBDO, right? And see if there's something that I could do that's cross agency, right? It's not tied to one agency, but it's like folks across advertising. But yeah.
Fantastic. Another round of applause for Barbara. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll grab the clicker. Well, I'll grab the clicker. Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. Alrighty, we have one more segment today. How are we feeling out there? Ready for one more to close out episode 3? It is my great pleasure to welcome the team from Colle McVoy for our next segment. They are going to be chatting about pre-idea creativity for faster, better, stronger. Please welcome to the stage Alli Bolger, Anna Marie Matta, Katie Walley-Wiegert, and Portfolio Night All-Star Marc Smith Jr.
I have a question for you. When I say brief, do you say yay, may, This is your chance, jungle of sound. What is your emotional reaction? Yay, right? Newbies to Adland say that briefs are one of the hardest learning curves. Like, how do you absorb them? How do you stay true to them? Take a swim around Fishbowl and you can see that even industry vets have a lot of beef with briefs. And so we want to get into it. We have been reviewing hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of ideas based off a brief of our own making that we did for a client, and we reviewed everything with a client, and it's given us some perspective about briefs and collaborations and what to do to get to the best ideas. So let's kick off the conversation with our VIP of this section, Marc, One Club All-Star. So Marc, this was like the first time that you've kind of experienced a brief and had to respond to it. So I gotta ask, like, what was that gut reaction of the challenge to absorb it, and kind of what led you to get inspired and energized from it?
When it came to the challenge, I like solving puzzles. I like solving challenges. So having such a massive, I guess, client, at least from my scale, just got out of college, not that much experience, but seeing that challenge, it inspired me to tackle it head on. And what energized me was the Disco Dinos. Amazing team. Working with them really helped instill that energy in me every day to keep working on the brief, and inspired me a lot. So yeah.
We have audience plans. Rapid fire. So then, are all human truths equal? Is there a flavor of insight or observation that you're more drawn to? I have a strategist friend who said she's in her ugly truth era.
I don't know about ugly truths. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's a flavor that I'm going for every time I'm writing a brief. It's more so I just like a truth to feel pointy, right? And sometimes I think my favorite insights or my favorite truths come off with a little bit of a dare or a taunt in them. It's just more fun to write that way. So we could call that the flavor.
Thank you. Maybe because I am Latina, I look for drama. I grew up with telenovelas, so whenever I'm writing a brief, that human truth has to have some drama in it. Bring some tension, some contradicting behavior. If I had to call something, I think I'm currently in my contradiction era. So I try to look for behaviors that contradict each other from consumers, and there's always so much tension and drama there.
Okay, back to you, audience. Who are the brief breakers? Raise your hand if you like to break a brief. I mean, isn't that the fun? Pushing it, right? Okay. A bit of a spoiler, but I thought it was interesting that the winning team was ultimately the group that stuck tightest to connecting with the target demo in the brief. So, Alli, Anna Maria, should we be color coding briefs? How do you think briefs can evolve to help creatives know when to experiment and bend the brief versus not straying too far from what's outlined?
That's a hard question. If you think about color coding the brief, I'm going to say no. That's my personal point of view. And I say no because it can get really easy to start color coding everything as mandatory. And I think our role as strategists and the role of creatives is to challenge and sit down and have the conversation about, all right, this feels like it's a mandatory, let's talk about it. Why? And understand why. The conversation needs to happen. And if we start color coding, then, I don't know, I feel like you start to lose that conversation. I also would encourage the creatives in this room to challenge themselves to work with constraints. There's so much creativity that comes from having those constraints. So instead of saying, I want to challenge everything here and this is wrong, what could happen if you embrace that?
Yeah, I think if a creative team has to break a brief, I haven't done my job. Like, that is the truth. If you can bend it or blow past it, I think that's what I'm looking for. Creativity that elevates where the brief started and takes it into a new level. That's when we're in sync, right? And so if you're breaking the brief, I failed. And I also think color coding, the hard no for me, that means you've already got too much information in the brief. If you're having to light it up like a crime scene, what to pay attention to, like, no. A great creative brief it's a launch code. It's not a leash, right? It should really allow for a creative to blow past it and bend it in the right ways and elevate it in the right ways.
So then, Marc, what's a section or a piece of information that you wish could appear in every brief for inspiration?
For inspiration, I think something that should be mandatory is realistic expectations of what the company can do. Right? As creatives, like, our energy is spent thinking of ideas, and it's not helpful to waste that on a concept that can't even happen in the first place. Right? So if we're doing a pitch for an ad, hey, if you can't run the ad on Netflix, then tell me that. Because then as a creative, I then have to problem solve and get through that and find new ways to reach the audience you want to reach. So just having outlined limits is extremely helpful for me as a creative.
What's one thing my fellow strategist friends want to see from creatives doing more when they absorb or approach a brief?
Just engage. I think obviously since COVID, we've had a lot of hybrid work. And I know certainly in the agencies I've been in, it's really easy to just go off camera or to just shuffle from meeting room to meeting room and just show up and be briefed. I like fight me, challenge me, like, and show that you're engaging, ask the questions, you know, that's really all I'm looking for from a team, because there's a reason behind every word in that brief. There are choices and decisions that were made. And so ask me why I closed that door or why I didn't open this one. And you'll get a detailed answer and a good conversation that might open something for you.
I would say invite me in the process. Not because I want to be a creative, because I kind of do, but beside that point, I see myself as a translator. So I'm here to translate to the client, I'm here to translate to the creatives, very different languages. And the more I'm able to understand your process and what you're thinking and how you're going about it, the more I can start to work on how to translate that to account, to client, to anyone that needs to sign off on this idea, and sell it. So it's like, we're not siloed. You don't have to go and work on the brief on your own. We're a team, and I'm here to help you. So the more you get me into your process, the more I can help you sell that.
Are there any changes you've made to how you as strategists approach crafting briefs to better serve the creatives?
I joke about this, but it's kind of true, that I have a short-term memory. So whatever I've done in the past, I forget. And so every brief to me, I approach it like it's a new thing. And because it should be. Every challenge is different. Even if it's the same client, the time has changed, something has changed. So I see every brief as a blank canvas of, all right, what do we need to do here? And what are the things that need to go in here that are going to make a difference?
Yeah, I love that. Blank slate every time. It's like strategic amnesia. Yeah, but I think I've changed a little bit. I certainly think with every brief, you're striving for a point of view and for that clarity, right? And that's still true. But I think briefing has changed for me. The brief document might be the same, and we might have a lot more contexts and a lot more channels or constraints where we need to think differently. But in the briefing process, I find that lately I'm bringing a lot more texture and grip and toe holds for creatives to kind of get their fingers into, rather than just delivering the story of the brief. I'm kind of maybe lifting the lid a little bit on my research process a little bit more. Here's some of the rabbit holes I went down to. Here was like a little clip of a movie that inspired me, or some, writing here or a little bit there. Here's some TikToks that, and I think some of that texture really does help them to expand and think a little bit into the places and spaces the work needs to flex.
So when it feels like a badge of success is becoming what we can deliver in a day, amid meetings, new priorities cropping up, what do you all need to be able to ponder and be present for building briefs and working off them? Let's start with you, Marc.
To work off of them, I would say creatives, make sure you are okay. Go outside. I'm so serious. Live your life, because your ideas are inspired by how you live your life and how diverse in which you are. If you are only studying one thing, your output will only be that one thing. Go out of your comfort zone, learn different mediums, study different cultures, how they design, how they use space. Make sure you're okay and you're diverse and you're in the mindset to put out good work, and that good work will come. The agency is hiring you. That's what they're going to you for. They're hiring you for your output, for your ideas. If you're not good, then you won't have good ideas. So make sure you're in that mindset before doing anything creative.
Oh, I love that so much. Get outside,
shoot.
touch grass. We should all do that right now.
We should run off stage.
Yeah,
That might be it.
we all just leave. I hate to say this in response to the question, but it's just less meetings, please. Like more unscheduled white space. I think, how are you going to have time to check in with yourself or go for that walk or do anything if every minute of every day is triple booked or scheduled? I think it's just gone absurd lately, and I think everybody said this every year we've been in advertising, but it feels pretty dire lately.
Yes and yes. One more thing to add is make sure you're clear. So many times we get back, like we brief, we get back, and it's like, well, I assume this is what you meant, or I assume this is what you want. And it's like, no. No. Make sure that you are stepping out of that meeting or of that brief, knowing exactly what is expected and making sure all your questions and answers. Don't assume anything.
As a journalism major, I believe that. I had a professor who said, check everything, assume nothing. If your mother says she loves you, check it out. Talk to dad, phone a friend. I'm curious, briefs typically focus on giving a sense for consumers and perceptions they have regarding a brand. I noticed that the participating all-stars had a lot of questions about the brand stewards and how they perceive the brand and its products. So, with that being said, as context, who has seen the Warheads work where they blew up the mascot? Raise your hand. No? Go check it out. Yay, one. Good job. Check out work in this industry. It's so important. I believe Tom Briss did the work. It's wonderful. But when I saw it, I went, I remember that idea pitched to a potential client 6 years ago. We all have those ideas. They sting. And so what are your thoughts on the role of the brief in helping people identify and navigate bias? How can briefs help spark not only great ideas, but guidance on how to actually position those ideas for those brand stewards to say yes to?
I'll draft off something you said earlier. Strategy is a partner to creative, right? And invite us in. And I think it's too much pressure to put on the brief, right? We talked about color coding. No, we're not going to preload everything up front, but the strategist's role is to stay connected to the work and to help sell it, right? And so it's not just to spark the work, it's to shepherd it and to really sell it and keep it sold. And I really think when you stay connected to the work and you stay connected to your team, you can always draw that squiggly line back to strategy. I really love to think about here's the ideas that we're excited about. Here's how we can bulletproof them. And a lot of that is not just knowing your consumer, it's knowing the consumer of the work, your client, right? So partnering with your account team, understanding, what each client needs in order for each idea to feel bulletproof, right? So this client loves having these boxes ticked. This client wants their mind blown. How do you bulletproof each idea so it doesn't feel like a risk, but it just feels like that revelation that clients are looking for? But yeah, it's about staying close to the work all the way through, selling and keeping it sold.
And so when we think about the types of work flooding the marketplace today, limited edition product drops, co-creation efforts, interactive media placements, there's a lot about a brand's operations and supply chain to consider. Heck, we saw a lot of ideas about taking over another brand's out-of-home placement, hello lawsuit, or showing up in every major upcoming Netflix series. I don't have the math skills to tell you how much that would cost. So again, I gotta ask, what's the role of the brief in helping shape creative concepts that are equally audacious as they are feasible?
Essential, I would say, yeah. I think, the whole point of strategy is to set, the boundaries of the ambition, but not to limit creativity, right? And so really understanding this is the sandbox that we're playing in, this is the budget that we have, that's another creative constraint. And I always think great ideas, you can sort of find a way to make them happen too. So I don't love to limit creativity at the outset, but it is really important to be clear about budget. It's important to be clear about, this is what legal says we can't do. Also have really good friends in your legal department so that you can understand how much flex is in there really. But yeah, that is important to have that in the brief because it's another creative constraint.
I feel like I'm going to repeat myself again, but know your clients and use strategy and accounting to help you with that. Know your clients. They are going to tell you, we want breakthrough, blah, blah, blah. But there's really a motivation behind it. Know what that motivation is. That's going to help you sell the work, whether it's blowing up your character or taking over a brand or like whatever it is. When you know what it is that they want to get out of, it's easier to sell. At the end of the day, like as strategists, we have to think of our consumers. Like we're targeting our consumers, not our client. But the way to get to do that is knowing what's going to motivate them to say yes. And that's a team effort. So yeah.
Right. And Marc had a good point. Like, what are the non-negotiables? Like, if there is a line that a client has, please let us know the line so we don't dream over it. Anything you wanted to add, Marc?
No, you did it basically perfect.
Okay.
No.
Just want to make sure. So since Cannes is right around the corner, let's wrap things up in the spirit of where briefs can hold the line between substance and stunt. Creativity that truly has impact and builds up a brand. Listen, I admit it, my mind goes there. Is the idea big enough? Does this have a whiff of something Burger King did 7 years ago? Because we've seen brands through this process actually reject super scaled ideas for more incrementality. How do we protect creative concepts, making it out of the brains and into the discussion set? I cannot help but think of all the amazing ideas that are dreamed up in the course of a day and go, oh, I think a brand did this, 3 years ago. So can this brand do it? How do we challenge obsession with scale and novelty?
Okay, so I have kind of a two-parter. The first one is, as creatives, it's not your job to say no. It's their job to say no. Don't ever put an idea to paper and then psych yourself out of it because you think it's crazy. I'm here because my team won the Purdue prompt, and Purdue, family friendly. Our idea was a chicken strip club. That was the idea. That's what we pitched to them with full faith. And the response was no. But the response was also no, but we like these images. No, but we like this feeling. And we would have never gotten that feedback if we would have just never presented to them a chicken strip club. I think it should have won, but it is here and there. So don't let yourself be the limit of that. Okay, it's their job to say no. It's your job to think of the idea. And secondly, don't try to be insane. Your job is not to create something that's never been done before. Your job is to put your spin on something that has been done. Your job is to offer your unique insight into something that others may have done before you. That's why they're going to you. Sure, someone else did it. If they wanted them to do it, they'd go to them. But they didn't. They went to you because they want your spin on this particular idea. A lot of the best ideas that have been presented in the Morning Buzz in the past week, they once started as these massive things that we're going to take over the Super Bowl. They started as one Instagram post. They started as one slogan, as one small thing. And over time, they grew into that. So don't start with the idea of we're going to go massive. Start with we're going to get through the basics. Does this work? Is this functional? Okay, we like this, then expand. Your job isn't to make a new wheel. It's to just mod it. It's to make a different version.
I can close my eyes and see the mood boards that you did, and they're beautiful. And again, that's a point. We talked so much about Marc and his skill set and his bravery because of the idea that was put forward and saying yeah, that's probably not the fit for Purdue, but there was so much underneath what was presented that has stuck with us ever since. Anything you all want to add?
I want to add something. Yesterday we did a training on conflict management, and one of the conflict approaches is consensus, and that really stuck with me because sometimes when you're working on a team, you got to trust each other's skills, and you know, I love working on a team and everyone to have a strong point of view, and then getting to a consensus where maybe I am not fully agreeing or I don't align to that, but I trust your skills and I trust your point of view, so we're gonna go for it. And that happened last week on a new business pitch. The creatives came in with this idea. I'm like, no, I bring all the data. This is not gonna work. It was a partnership. It was big. I'm like, this is not gonna work. The consumer doesn't like that. But the creatives brought a really interesting point of view, and we discussed it. And at the end, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna trust you. And we were on that pitch, and I saw the client's eyes like lit up. And I immediately went like, wow, I was wrong. And I hate being wrong. But I was wrong, and I'm so glad I trusted my team. Because I had never seen, especially in a pitch, like, so when you're thinking about big, stunty, award-winning work, yeah, trust your instinct, trust your skills, and trust your team. Someone might not be in agreement, but it's a team effort.
Make sure that team isn't too big. I think that's like what we tend to do is like just dogpile talent into a review at the wall, and you get way too many voices, and like great ideas just die under a pile of concerns. And it happens with clients, but for us to do that to ourselves is just like exhausting and really frustrating. I'm sure for creative teams, but even for me watching it happen, it's awful, because who do you pay attention to when every voice is equal in a creative review? And yeah, I mean, obviously still always striving for substance over stunts. I think there's like, I have a bias, you know, we're in an industry, we're selling things, they need to do the thing we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, like have a small team reviewing the work, a small and trusted team, and then bring in fresh eyes at like for a limited time. And you're trusting just those people to be your fresh eyes, right? And yeah.
I think that's a perfect place to wrap.
Team, everyone. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for coming today. It was our pleasure to have you all here at the One Club for Creativity. Thank you, team. That was an excellent conversation. We are back for our final episode tomorrow, episode 4, same time, 10 a.m. We'll see you then. Thanks for coming.